Once again, people just don't learn, and they keep buying stuff off eBay. And here's another one that we're going to look at today. This is a DAT. It's a Sony DTC75ES, and it doesn't work. Surprise, surprise. The guy already explored sending it back, but the cost of returning this is going to cost him more than he paid for it in shipping charges. So he sent it to me to have a look at. Let's check it out. Well, here's another nightmare eBay purchase. Fellow brought me this unit in. It's a Sony DTC75ES. The first thing I noticed that there should be a copper brace across here, which is missing. So it tells me right away somebody's been into this unit. Plus the fact that the wire ties aren't tied down. Right, somebody's definitely been into this unit. Complaint is it eats a tape. So let's see. Oh, it also has a missing door for the front here. Looks like the feet aren't level either. Let's try it out and see what it does. So load it up the tape. Okay. So the drum's not spinning. See, it's loading, but the drum's not spinning. Okay, so let's see what's wrong with this thing. Oh. Yeah, the drum's not spinning all right. It's jammed. It turns. But the other way it sticks. I can't even turn it. It feels like there's something jammed inside the drum. Interesting. Well, I guess we're going to be taking this one apart and see why the drum is jamming. That's an interesting fault. Let's pull this one apart. Of course, my major concern is that the rotary transformer is bad. But we'll find out. Loosen off these two screws here to remove these two, and there's two more down here. Actually, there's only one because one appears to be missing. But there should be a second screw in here. But as you can see, there's one screw missing. So that just, and these screws aren't tight, so that just right there tells me that somebody's been into this machine. So in other words, what surprises are we going to find once we get into here? Well, let's find out. So there's the mechanism. Okay, this wire ties in place. This wire's out of place, but oh yeah, this has been opened up. So somebody's been into this. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to unplug the mechanism so that I can work on the mechanism separate from the unit itself. So we'll remove the plugs first. Oh, that's one of my mounting screws. I was wondering where the heck did that screw come from. We'll just put them out of there so they don't fall into anything. And once we get all the plugs undone, the unit itself, we should be able to lift this out right out from the box. Because that's what we want to do to work on this. We want to separate the deck from the electronics. There's no point in having all the electronics in the way. Unplug the head amp. And what else? This one I think unplugs from the board here. And there should be another one that plugs into the board. That one and that one. Okay, now I've got the deck separate. Let's get rid of the box. Something is sticking this drum. You can see down here and see if there's anything in the slot here. But when I try to turn it one way, it sticks, which is the way it wants to turn when it's running. I'm just going to look at this, kind of give it an inspection, see if I can spot anything that's wrong with it. I don't see anything in the drum itself. I'm going to unplug the drum motor. We'll pull this circuit board out of here and look under the board. Okay, here's the drum motor itself. I'm curious if there's anything around here. I'm just going to pull the coil assembly off, see if there's any debris between the magnet, the rotor, and the actual coil. It's not sticking now. It's turning freely. Huh. It's not sticking. Well, isn't that interesting? Let's just put this back together and see whether it sticks when I put it together. Because it certainly was sticking before I took that stator assembly off the rotor. I'm going to magnetize my screwdriver a bit more here. That drum turns freely now. That is weird. There was nothing in between there, in the coil. There was nothing stuck to the magnet or anything that I could see. And but it wasn't turning before, and now it is. So that is bizarre. But let's just put the motor board. Oh, you know what? I should probably check while I've got this apart. I should probably check the real motors. The real motor on this one usually needs to be lubricated. So while I've got this apart, I might be further ahead to pull the real block out, which is this one here, because quite often screws come loose on the solenoid and can fall out, but also the brake pads get loose on these. So let's just remove this block while I've got it apart. So I can check this out. If I can get this thing working, then the guy got a good deal on this thing. because I know he didn't pay. He didn't pay through the nose for it. He paid a couple $100 for it, but still, it's if we can get it to work, that'd be great. Okay, what's holding this up? Oh, this is kind of buggered up. Oh, with the, straighten that up a bit. The back tension band is kind of screwed around a bit on it. Let's take a look at this block here. See if the brake pads are in any good shape. So the brake pads look to be okay. There's a brake, you can see it on this one. That brake pad looks to be okay. And you can see it on the other one here. You can see both of those brake pads are intact, as is this one up here. That one's intact. One thing that is a bit mangled is the back tension. I may have done that when I was taking the assembly out. These brakes are okay, these brake pads. Back tension band needs to be re-glued. I'm going to actually remove it here and see if I can glue that back tension felt back on, because it's coming off about halfway around, which is not good. So I should be able to remove that and reattach it. So I've got the back tension band removed, at least the screws removed for it. I need to cement down the pad. It's coming off. You can see the brake felt is coming off the band itself. So I need to glue that back in place. I'm going to do that by, I think, put some crazy glue or something on here, probably crazy glue, and recenter the band and let it dry. So I'll put a drop of crazy glue on the back here. And then when I straighten this out, it should suck it against the actual copper band, and it should stick to it. And hopefully that's all I need to do on this. Yeah, it's not going to be quite as good as the original one was, but it should be sufficient that it's not going to come apart anymore. At least that's the hope. We used to do these all the time at the shop, glue them back in place. Always had pretty good luck getting them to stick again. The chances of this working now are better than they were before. I still don't know if there's any other damage that's hidden. Again, it was an eBay purchase, and eBay purchases are, in my opinion, are risky. Anybody who buys stuff off eBay is taking a gamble, especially vintage audio. The guy that bought it said that it was fully functional, and he paid a couple $100 for it, of course, plus the shipping and everything. So it wasn't like he got this thing for $10. He paid a few bucks for it, and now he's paying me to try and get the thing working for him. But as I say, eBay purchases are always risky. And yes, he had the option of sending it back, but for the same reason that I don't like dealing with eBay, especially when you're dealing with stuff coming across the border. He's got shipping charges that he can't recover. He's got broker charges that he can't recover. So, the guy's probably into this thing for $400 as it sits by the time he paid shipping to get it shipped to Canada. And by the time he paid broker charges, which are going to happen on these, because shippers always ship things out by FedEx or UPS or whatever, and they all collect their fees. So I would think the guy that owns this has probably got $400 into this thing as it sits. So hopefully we'll be able to get it going for him and make him happy. He'd be a lot happier now than he was when he brought it to me, that's for sure, because this wasn't turning. I don't have a torque tape for this, so I'm going to have to kind of guess as to where it goes, but judging from the shape of this back tension band, it's not in great shape to begin with. So okay, let's reinstall the circuit board and see if we can remember where all the plugs go. This is the servo board, or the motor drive board, I should say. Drum motor servo board. It goes back down in here like this, and the connector pops through it. Okay, rest of the wires go in. That's for the preamp. This one here goes in down here. Preamp may need some attention on this unit too. That we'll find out. Where are the rest of the wires? The black one goes in here. This black one goes up here. And there should be another white connector that plugs in. So I'll drop the chassis back in place, and I'll just put one or two screws in just to kind of hold this in place for now. It should be noted that these ones fit into plastic insulators to insulate or to isolate this chassis from this. As you can see, there's a plastic insulator on here too. So this is electrically isolated from the ground here. That's, I guess, to stop ground loops. Okay, that part's back together. Let's just plug this thing in and see whether it does anything. Open. Well, that part's good. So, still not working. The drum is not turning. Back to square one. Let's just do some voltage checks on here. Plus 12 is there, minus 12 is there. Plus 6, plus 10, it's a 9 volt supply, it's a 10 volt supply there, 5 volt supply over here, and a 5 volt regulator over here. Minus 5 volt supply. Checking on my power supply voltages just to make sure. I know I've got all the plugs are in the right place. Again, the very fact that this came in with there's a copper shield that goes across here. The very fact that this came in with that missing and with all the screws loose, it's a dead giveaway that somebody's been into this thing. I have no idea why at this point. It could be that motor is shot. I mean, it was jammed and I took it apart and it unjammed, so it could be the motor itself if it's bad. Although there's not really a heck of a lot to go wrong with these motors. Power's off, by the way, just so you guys know. I'm going to set it down here, but I've got the power cut off. There's not a whole heck of a lot to go wrong with one of these three-phase motors. I'll just pull this board out again and just inspect it again. I'll do all the plugs on the bottom again on there. I'm going to leave the deck in the chassis this time, though. Just undo the plugs and pull the board. And no, before you even ask the question, all the plugs are in the correct plugs because they only go in one way. They're all keyed and they're a different type of connectors. There's either a different number of pins or they have a different shape. So they'll only fit in to a specific place. Right? Some of the connectors, as you can see, are keyed with keyways like this, and other connectors that are the same number of connectors are shaped differently, so they only fit into the one specific type of connector. Some of them have got this type of keyway, and others have that type. I thought I could hear the phone ringing, and sure enough, the phone was ringing, but the bell is not working on the phone in the workshop here, so I guess that's another thing I'm going to have to fix. We'll take that apart and see why the bell's not working on a future video, which I might just do today because I might just give up on this one. Okay, so here's this is the motor connector down here. I'm just wondering if any connections are broken on here. Well, I do see that there are connections on this board that are not good. Maybe, just maybe that's our fault. Let's fix these plugs on this servo board. There's a bunch of them that are bad. A whole bunch of them, so let's just fix these up and cross our fingers and toes that that's all that's wrong, and that's going to make this thing work. Because a bad connection there certainly would prevent a motor from going if it was interrupting a critical voltage, such as the feedback voltage or even the signal voltage to tell the motor to turn on. Okay, that's soldering iron's warmed up now. Let's fix this up. The light where I could use it most. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm doing. I'll try to keep what I'm doing in frame while I work. I'm going to do all these plugs. They all look bad. Every single last one of them looks like it needs to be redone. They're all bad. Look at them. Every single one of these has bad connections on it. To say, I'll try to keep this in frame on the camera. I'm kind of not looking at the monitor when I'm doing this because I'm using my magnifying glasses when working on this fine stuff, and I can't see the monitor through them. Okay, let's install the board again. Okay, reconnect the connectors again, and fingers crossed this is going to do something more than it did last time, which was nothing. But you never know, right? Never know. Always hopeful that we're going to bring these old electronic gems back from the dead. It's always a nice feeling when you get them going, especially since they're becoming, you know, relatively rare these days. You got all the plugs in. We'll just hold this thing up out of the chassis now, just see whether it will actually do anything more than it was doing before, which would say it was nothing. Okay, let's see if the drum will spin up this time. Will it spin? No. Okay. So I was hopeful that that's all it was, but apparently it's more. I guess I have to dig up a manual for this thing now. I got this schematic for the drum servo. I'm not a fan of working off of PDFs. I hate them. I hate online schematics. I hate PDFs because it's so difficult to figure anything out because things just go from one page to the next. I like the old paper schematics, but I've got a printout here which should give me an idea whether I'm getting voltages to the motor. I'm going to check to see that I've got my 5-volt supply, for example, to the motor, and make sure my VCC's there, and make sure my chip's got power and so forth, and we'll see whether the problem's in the motor itself or whether the problem's further back. According to the manual, pin 6 should be ground and pin 7 should have my 5 volts on. So let's look at you guys can see the meter there. Here's pin 6. 6 is at ground, and pin 7, if I can get into here without shorting anything out, it's a recessed pin, but pin 7 is right there, and it has nothing on it, it looks like. If I can get in here to actually measure it. It's hard to tell from there. It is fed from, you can't get the probe in there, that's the problem. It is fed from pin 13 of IC 101, which goes back to pin 1 of CN 131. So here's CN 131 over here. Pin number 1 is it's one of these ones. Is it this one? There, 5 volts. There it is. Yeah. So the 5 volts is getting onto this board. I guess if I'm careful, I can put, here we go. Yeah, 5 volts is getting to the motor itself. The drum start voltage should be pin number, I think it's number 8. One of these is going to trip it. Then also pin 5 is the standby. Pin 8 is the servo control. And that one should change when it tries to start it. So when I go to tape, pin number 8, the voltage should change for when the motor attempts to turn on. Put my tape in. We'll monitor this as I try to start it up here. Okay, so close. Pin 8. Yeah, pin 8 does go up and down. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but if we open it and close it, watch the voltmeter. Okay, pin 8 goes up to 4 volts there for a second, you see, and then it drops back down. That's supposed to start the drum up, and then the drum will measure the frequency generator and the pulse generator, and the drum is not starting. So, looking like the motor, because it's got the 5 volts going to it, and we give it the control signal. You see it bumps up to 4 volts there momentarily. That should spin the drum up. Normally the process when these things start is before they even start to thread the tape, they kick the drum up to speed. It's trying twice to start the drum. The drum's not spinning. So, I'm thinking maybe a bad motor. Or, I think it's probably the motor is bad. I think the motor itself, there's probably a drive IC on the motor itself that does the 3 phases for the 3-phase motor. We'll take another look at the motor here. We'll pull the screws out on the motor and just take a look at it. I don't think we're going to see anything on here, except for maybe an IC. I'm sure there's an IC on this motor itself, and that's probably what's cooked. I didn't pay that close of attention to it when I pulled it apart before, because I just pulled it apart and the motor was free and I stuck it back together. So let's take a closer look. But I have a sneaking suspicion there's probably an IC on this motor itself. Okay, there's the motor. Oh yes, there it is. There's an IC right there, built right into the motor. You can see it, blob of epoxy right there. Get that out of the way. There's the drive IC right there on the motor, and that motor is shot. I'm sure that motor is shot at this point. There's our fault. I don't see any connections here that are bad. Our FG pulse generator and our frequency generator is also in there. You can see it. Where are we looking? You guys aren't seeing what I'm seeing. But anyway, there's the drive IC right there. It's integrated into the motor. You can see it. It's a blob of epoxy here. I think these connections look okay. The motor's receiving the signal to start up, and it's not spinning. But as I say, when I first opened this thing up, as you guys saw, it was jammed, and for no rhyme or reason, I don't know what was jamming it, because nothing was stuck to the magnet, right? Nothing was stuck there, but it was jammed. And when I turned it one way, it sounded like something was dragging. Whether it was dragging against this IC, I don't know. But it's not working. So we've got our voltage to start the motor, and the motor's not starting. So we have a bad drum. And I say good luck trying to get parts. The guy that owns this will probably give it to me for parts now that we've discovered what the problem is. He'll probably tell me to keep it like everybody does. Everybody says, hell, I don't want it back. It's broken. You hang on to it. So maybe if I ever come across a drum and this thing's given to me, we'll change it out. Or if it gets given to me, which it very well could at this point, I have a 75 ES myself. So now I would have a spare. I'll have a chassis, a mechanism and everything, minus a drum. Now this bloody thing broke my tape. It despooled my tape. Not that I expect it to be any different than it was when I put it back, or had it apart there and put it back together. I just wanted to put it back and throw the tape in and try it one more time just to make sure that nothing has changed. And I just spoke to the guy that owns this. It's the nice thing about doing stuff for people that are local is that I can actually phone them. And well, he's not happy, but he told me to hang on to it. He says, you know, just keep it. It's no good to me as it is. So he says, you might as well hang on to it. And if you ever come across a motor, then try fixing it. And no, he doesn't want it back. He says that, you know, it's he lost a lot of money on it. I suggested, I said, why don't you ship it back? And his reasons were exactly what I said it was going to be before. He's already paid a lot of money for it. He paid $240 US for a unit that was apparently was working when it was tested. But the seller sent it to him. It cost him a small fortune. It cost him over $100 to have it shipped up to Canada. And he has to pay the shipping to get it back down to the States. And he won't get his shipping back. So he's looking at it as a loss leader because he paid $240 US for it. He says it cost him over $100 shipping, plus there was brokerage fees and taxes and stuff that were added on at the border. So by the time he ships it back and pays the shipping back, he'll be out of pocket about the same amount of money that he's out of pocket right now. So he's cutting his losses and just said, hang on to it. Says maybe he'll be able to fix it someday. Well, I highly doubt that, but maybe I'll be able to fix my DAT tape, though, that this thing decided to tear off the leader. I've never fixed one of these before, so let's just see what I need to do to fix this little tape. See, what this machine was doing is every time it ejected the tape, it was rewinding it back, trying to rewind it back further to the beginning, and it was already at the beginning. And it just managed to tear the leader right off of the take-up hub. You think working with a videotape is tough, or a cassette tape? Try working with one of these stupid things. It's a tape that's the width of a cassette tape, but it's pretty thin. And it has a mind of its own. Should be like a videotape. I should be able to just stick this on here and take this clip and snap it in. That's how you do it, but I didn't have the leader lined up. If we get the leader lined up here, I should be able to take this piece and just snap it in. And I apologize if I'm not fully on camera because I really can't see what the heck I'm doing. Okay, there, that should be now. I got to get the tape These real locks are a pain in the butt. Got a couple springs in here. I should be able to lift the spring out like that and lift out this real lock assembly. There, now I can thread the tape back around how it goes, like that, and back in, something like that, something like that. I believe that's how the tape is threaded. And then this real lock assembly goes on top. What this does is this pushes down on the tape hubs to stop them from turning when the flap is closed on the front. So now we've got a spring. It goes back in here like this. And it locks this real lock in place like that. That all holds that in place, and then the top cover goes on. Again, easier said than done. Gonna have to get the cover in place. And sorry about that, I just had somebody come up to my door and was begging. Oh, there's the slip sheet. The slip sheet I forgot to put in. I guess we better try that. I got it all together, and then I realized there's no slip sheet. Do I think I'll really miss the slip sheet? Will I miss the slip sheet or not? My luck, I will. So we'll just try to put this thing back in. Looks like it goes in under here. There's a little hole in it. So it goes in under there. And that little hole lines up. And then the slip sheet sits just like that. Now, if I can somehow keep the spools in place and fit this over the top again like I did before. Keep everything in place. I might make it work. Okay, now, and of course my camera is moving on its own. Now I get the screws back in. I don't want to lump all these people that go door to door begging for money in the same, I don't want to brand them all with the same brush, but there's so much bloody fraud that goes on with people. Oh, I'm collecting for this charity, I'm collecting for that charity, and they're not. They're actually collecting to put money in their pocket, especially when they ask for, especially if they ask for cash. So I have the same standard response to everyone. Leave your card, and I will contact your office and make my donation that way. And the legitimate ones, they do it. And the other ones say, oh, I don't have any cards. Well, leave me your contact info and I will contact your office. And they don't have it. And that makes you kind of wonder. When they say, thank you for your time and leave, it makes you wonder how legit these people really are. And I'm sure most of them are, but you hear on the news that people are scammed all the time. So I'm always asking those questions. Okay, this should release the locks for the tape, and I should be able to spin the tape here with the screwdriver. Looks like the tape is spinning now nice and freely. So I think I fixed it. There's our leader. And the real locks are in place. So well, at least I accomplished one thing on this DAT machine, besides not being able to, no I didn't. Oh, wait a minute. Got it. Now it'll lock. The real lock, the hub lock here. There, now it's locked, good. So I was at least able to accomplish one thing. I fixed one of my DAT tapes, which are again getting kind of scarce. I got a whole bunch of these little short ones that I got from a recording studio that closed up, and they gave me all their old stuff. They gave me all their old tapes. I got a whole box full of these short ones. Most of them, when I got them, had, well, some of them had original music, like theme music on it. Most of them had radio commercials. It was a studio that was doing audio post for radio stations, so I got a whole bunch of these tapes that had commercials from like back in the 1980s and 90s when they were using DAT for production, which was kind of funny to hear some of them. I should play some of them just for fun. Okay, let's put this thing back to sort of together, because this one is now going to be put into my collection and will sit there until I need it for something for parts, or until I find a drum that will work. Anyway, you guys don't need to see me putting this thing back together. I've spent enough time. I've been on this thing for like 4 hours today. So 4 hours and nothing to show for it. And I can't even charge the guy an estimate fee, because good luck getting him to pay. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you later. Bye.